Hi, Marcus Hersh from Daily Racing Forum. Welcome to this week's Game Plan with Marcus Hersh segment. Game Plan is a product the Racing Forum puts out almost every day. Handy thumbnail guide to racing around North America. Almost every day we also do a playbook section. That is the kind of nature of this report, where I pick a couple horses that I'm interested in betting on, either as standalone propositions or multi-race wager keys, vertical exotic keys, something like that. I'm going to focus on Saturday action, not a ton of racing Sunday, April 20th. And both races I'm looking at are at Keeneland. And in both races, I'm interested in horses who are going to need a lot of things to go their way, but will be hopefully large enough price to justify the risk-reward ratio. First off, race 7, it's a second level turf sprint allowance race. The horse I'm focusing on is number 1, Closer Still, one of the rare offspring of the New Zealand bred So You Think racing in the States. That was an Aidan O'Brien. Well, the horse ended up with Aidan O'Brien in Ireland and was a very uh, high class, like mile and an eighth was probably his best trip performance. But in any case, we're getting off track here. Closer Still, 8-1 on the line. I'm hoping for at least that price, possibly more. I'm not sure that the line maker really knew what to do with this horse, and a lot of handicappers might not know what to do with her either. She is making a trainer change. Calumet Farm Homebred was trained by Mark Cassie until this iteration of her career. Now she is trained by Jose Fernandez, who you might not have heard of. That is the farm trainer for Calumet. So this horse has been based at Calumet Farm, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from Keeneland Racecourse. Now, that's a track that has self-reporting workouts, but I have paid attention to their workout reports for years. I think that they're fairly legitimate. It is a slow-playing surface, and when you get a sense for what works look like there, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what it means. And this Philly's work pattern there looks great. I think that I'm just gleaning from looking at the workouts that have been reported that she is really thriving in these new circumstances, and she's got some interesting form to her from 2018. It looked like they really were trying to figure out what she wanted to do. She had some decent Tapeta surface runs at Woodbine. They tried her running long, and even more interesting to me is like the end of her form from last year, where it seemed to be either she was experimenting or the humans behind her were experimenting in what sort of running style was most suitable, because she was way off the pace in a couple turf sprints at Saratoga and Belmont, and the one at Saratoga, she had even more trouble than the short comment line in the Racing Form PPs indicates. She was steadied hard at the half mile bull checked. In fact, her head came way up. She lost 4 or 5 lengths. Finished really well in that race. I'm not sure she loved the softer turf, good ground at Belmont, but she also finished pretty well in that. Those were both stakes races. And then really interesting to me is her last race before her layoff, where she was on a 21-3 opening quarter mile. To me, that Alea is like the biggest concern I have, which would be her dropping too far back early in this 5.5 furlong race to get up in time. Looks to me like she has pace. If jockey Miguel Mena wants to use a little bit, I certainly wouldn't want to see her on the lead by any stretch of the imagination, but I would want to see her get out of the gate decently from post 1 and gain a decent position. Just combining that last race with the work pattern that I'm seeing, I'm guessing she's going to come out sharp and is going to be able to keep up. I'm guessing also that people are going to look at this race as, first start back from a layoff, her last couple lines, she's beaten considerable margins. Those are odds inflating experiences. I don't see anyone here that you really have to be afraid of. In fact, look right next to her 5-2 Mamanu. Closer Still beat this horse last year. So hoping for double-digit odds, hoping for a decent break, and hoping for Closer Still to win fresh for new trainer Jose Fernandez. We'll move forward to race 9, the Elkhorn Stakes, a 1.5-mile turf fixture at Keeneland. This is a very competitive field, and I am going to play Knessar, number 5, who is not a great horse. He's got his limitations, but I feel like he's probably set for a peak performance. today, and I'm just thinking that having watched his last several races and knowing the horse from last year, I covered him when he came to Arlington and nearly won the Stars and Stripes. I also covered the Belmont Gold Cup last June, where he was a very fine second to the unfortunately for call to mind who met his demise later in the year, but was an excellent, I thought, winner of the Belmont Gold Cup. And that's a race worth mentioning because it was 2 miles. His horse was running a mile and 3/4 mile and 7/8 in France before his importation to the States, and he really might need like a mile and a half is on the short side for him. And you can see that in his races, he doesn't have that sort of snappy acceleration. He's a grinding, staying type. And I mean, you would think that maybe the way he was ridden last time, where he came off the fence early and got his head up next to the leader with like close to a half mile to go in the race, that might be a better trip for him. But I actually think he wants no part of that sort of journey. I think this is a horse that needs to be covered up for most of the race and then start his sustained run, at the 5/16, 3/8 full. I think that jockey Frigo Lynch and trainer Arnaud Delacour, who have teamed up 5 times with this horse, probably understand that. I feel like the Pan American last time was a means to an end. They may well be aiming specifically at the Belmont Gold Cup again, but that doesn't mean he can't win this race along the way. I do think that there is enough pace in the race that he'll be able to get over, get position, and settle in mid pack without pulling too hard. And he has pulled at times in the past. And I think he's got Keeneland experience. The course there can be a little bit tricky for some horses. I expect him to run the best race he's run in quite some time, and he does have some excuses in his recent form. I also, part of the appeal for me is the fact that Zulu Alpha number 10 is 8-5 on the morning line. That is a short price for a horse who doesn't have a huge margin of superiority to me in this race. I do like the horse. I picked him and was disappointed that he got bet so hard last time in the Mac Darmina, which he won. He also has a very nice win over the Keeneland course last fall. But this horse has run 2 of his top races in a row. I just don't think he's like some superstar. He's a 6-year-old who got very good when blinkers were taken off. He was playing for 80,000 last September. I mean, I think he's a contender, but I think he's got a wide draw. I'm concerned that he could regress a little bit, or I'd be concerned if I were playing him at a short price. And I think this is a fairly open race, and I'm thinking that Canessa might get the right trip, step forward and win this race. If he's something like 6-1, which is his morning line, which seems totally plausible to me, that'd be enough for me to take a swing. Best of luck to you in your plays this weekend.